Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. So what Lisa said is in the previous runs of this, people keep pouring in till about 7:05. But while we're getting started, let's just hear from how people are doing and maybe what's the most recent board game you played. Matt, you want to start us off?
Well, how am I doing? I guess I'm doing fine.
Yes. And what's the most
been
recent board
a
game?
long week and a long day, but other than that, what's the most recent board game I played? Let's see, that wasn't a board game. So, last tabletop game I played.
That counts.
What did we play last week? We played, I'm blanking. I was a commander of an Austrian fleet in the Mediterranean Sea during World War I.
What's the name of the game?
I don't know that my friends wrote the rules for this. So I don't think they've given it a name yet. We're still play testing them.
Oh, okay.
That's exciting. A new game. Very cool.
Yeah, that's actually, it's interesting that Matt would bring that up because Matt and I are finally going to get to run the X-Term class that we've been planning for 2 years. We had this, so X-Term is something that the kids at AFS do in the spring now in place of final exams. So the final 2 weeks of classes are when normal classes end, they end 2 weeks early, and kids get to sign up for an intensive course that they do for 2 weeks or about 8 days, where they come into school 8 o'clock in the morning and they start doing this immersive experience, and it lasts all day long. And they come in the next day and they do the same thing, that same course all day long. And the teachers are designing these courses, these experiences in pairs, co-curricularly, and some kind of immersive experiential thing. And so Matt and I have designed a course on the history of board games, the ethics, the designing board games, just the whole thing, the whole gamut. And we wanted to run it in the spring of 2020. And then COVID happened.
It kind of went away.
Yes. And so it's been on the back burners up until now. And so we're finally going to get to run it this spring. So we're very excited. So we'll be picking your brains for any ideas that you might have as we go through tonight. There's Lewis. Let me admit Lewis. He was here last time too. So what have I played recently? I'm doing well, and the last game that my wife and I played was a game that we just got in the mail, and it's Marvel United, which is it's not really a miniatures game. It comes with miniatures so that you can move them around the board, but it's a card game, a co-op game. Marvel heroes, big-headed Marvel heroes against Marvel villains. And it was part of the video of, I always watch the Dice Tower's top 100 games of all time, and that they put out every January-ish, and it's risen in the ranks, and so I wanted to check it out. So that was mine. I'm just going to read as I go across my screen. So Gretchen, you're next.
Well, let's see. I think the last game we played was called Ramen Fury. It's a card game that my daughter Alex, class of 15, got for her dad for Christmas because my husband is a huge ramen fan. So it's kind of silly. It's along the lines of exploding kittens, meaning it's not all that. It doesn't require a lot of brain power. It's quick and it's fun.
Cool. Marissa, you're next.
Right up there for you.
Hey, I'm doing all right. The latest board game I played, I know the newest board game I played is the American Cryptid edition of Horrified. It's a co-op monster hunting game. The original is based on the classic Universal monsters, so you fight like Dracula and Frankenstein. But there's a new version. It's the same game, basically reskinned, but it's based on American cryptids like Bigfoot and Mothman. So that's been pretty cool.
How was the new version? I haven't played it. I have the original.
It's mostly the same. Really, gameplay is pretty much the same, but just the new theme is cool. So,
Yeah. Have you gone online? If you go to what am I trying to think of? The game site, the
Board
number
Game
one
Geek?
game site. Yeah, Board Game Geek. Have you gone on there to get some of the fan made ones?
No, I'm not sure how those work because like the cards tell you how to like. Do you just
Right, but-
replace them?
They have downloadable content that is fantastic. You can replace your monsters and characters. They print out at the same size, and so you can print them onto like just cardstock or whatever.
That's
and
cool.
you
I
can
might have
have
to check that out.
Yeah, you have to check it out. It's got like all the different, you can have Freddy Krueger, you can have Jason from Friday the 13th, you can have any monsters that you want. They're really, really
That's
well
cool.
done.
I'll check that
Yeah.
out.
Rosa.
Hi everyone, I'm doing pretty good tonight. The last board game I played was Role Player.
Oh, okay. Role player. I've looked at that, but I've never played it before. I'd like to see how that plays. Eli.
Hi everyone. I'm doing well also. We'll call it, if you want to call it a board game, last thing I played was Micro Macro Crime City,
Oh, I don't know it.
which is, let's call it a co-op Where's Waldo style game or activity. And it's this giant map that's, I don't know, I'm looking at it right now, it's on my wall. It's like 4 feet by 3 feet with just a ton of illustrations on it. And it's filled with all these little crimes apparently that are going on. You have cards that are sort of clues, and you start someplace, and the map has pictures of the crimes that are happening at different time points, and you can sort of follow things forward and back. And it's just a fun little activity.
Oh, wow.
Board
I've
game.
never even heard of that. I've got to
Yeah.
check that out now. This is what I love about doing these, is just hearing about things that I've never heard of and checking it out. All right, Andrew, what have you or the little one been playing?
So I think most recently, the last game I played was Formula D, which is a racing game. It's a ton of fun. It's kind of controlled risk, managing damage to the car versus high speed with specific dice as you gear up, higher risk, further travel. Favorite game that I played recently is probably Mysterium, which is like a combination of Dixit and Clue, and it's so good. It takes a lot to get off the ground, especially with a group of people, and it's a lot of like, please trust me, I swear this gets good. But once you get someone in on it, it's a great time.
Yeah, Mysterium. I prefer Mysterium to Dixit. Other people think the other way, but then the last time we did this, I think someone on our on this event tipped me off to Obscurio, and now I'm like, oh, love Obscurio just as much as Mysterium. So if you haven't tried Obscurio, check it out. It's very, very cool. Lewis, you are up. Get comfy and tell us about your favorite game.
Right. Let's see. Oh, favorite. Well, that changed from most recent. So I with the toddler, it's a little bit harder to get out and get people over to play. So I've been trying to find some good solo plays, and I found this game called Nemo's War, which is themed for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh, cool.
And it's close to the book in terms of story. It started out as a war game, so the rules originally were kind of complex for war gamers, but it was popular. So the designer kept getting requests to make it more of a Euro. So he eventually made it into it does play with more than one player, but it was designed and it's thoroughly enjoyable solo. And you basically take Captain Nemo and go to different oceans, and depending on Nemo's goals or motivations that you pick at the beginning of the game, you search for treasure, or you explore the ocean, or you fight the evil imperialists and blow up all their ships. And well, you don't blow them up because Nemo would just run aground. But anyway, so it's a little bit of a dice game, but it's more controlled than a lot of other solos that I've played, because it's not, eventually it becomes everything's on fire, but it's a little less everything's on fire and a little more of an adventure. And all the cards that you get for each round have bits and pieces, sort of, I'm not super familiar with the text, but almost like they were pulled from the text with quotes of what Nemo was doing.
Yeah.
So plus it has a little miniature Nautilus, which is fun to move around the
Now,
board.
now I have a question. Did they make it look like the way he describes it in the book or the way it is in the
Yes.
Disney movie?
I'll show you the cover so you can see. But it was designed based on the book, not on the Disney or any of the other stuff.
Nice.
So actually, let me pull it out because it's right on the top and show you the tiny Nautilus.
So this is something you play mostly solo. Is it something that you have to leave set up for a extended period of time for days?
It depends. My first play, here you go. Here's your little Nautilus.
Nice.
That's the one from the
cool.
book. One of my friends just printed me one that looks like the one from the Disney movie.
Oh, yep.
And so I'm painting it up.
Nice.
It's playtime. I would say, I don't know, what does the actual box say on it? I would say the playtime probably would be at least 90 minutes, but not something you would need to set up over multiple days or anything. The first time I played it, it had a learning curve. I had to punch all the boards and stuff. So it took me a good 4 hours the first time, but that was because I had to learn everything, punch everything, prep everything. So, but yeah, and all the artwork is super, super cool on it too. So you can see like it has different events. So I just pulled the first random one. There's a capital encounter, and there's all the ships and things, and
Nice.
It
seems very flavorful.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about it. It had a story, but it didn't need to give me like when I sit down to do Gloomhaven solo, it's fun. There's story, but it's a lot more game than story play.
Mm-hmm. True.
And I thought it was a nice balance because of the way the cards are structured. So
yeah, I want to come back to that comment about Gloomhaven after everybody has had a chance to go. So for those people that I just recently let in from the waiting room, welcome. And we're going through and just describing or just telling everyone what's the most recent game we played, board game, tabletop game, whatever it is that you've played most recently. So so on the list, Carolyn, you're next. Welcome. What have you been playing? Carolyn, you still there? I'll give her a chance to come back. Gwen, how about you?
Sorry.
There you are.
There I am. Oh, no, funny. There I am. Well, I don't play many board games. My son-in-law loves board games,
Yeah.
and I signed on to this little webinar or whatever to kind of hear what other people are playing and to figure it out. I have about a 3-hour attention span, and these games he plays are very complex, and he gets a little frustrated. So maybe my focus has switched from not what I can play with them, my son-in-law and daughter and my husband, but maybe what game I could buy him next for his birthday.
I see. Well, you never know. I've got some that I wanted to show that are very entry level, quick, easy, fun games, and then some like that you're talking about that have 3-hour play times.
Yeah, well, we've done Settlers of Catan and
Nice.
Ticket to Ride, which is pretty
Nice.
elementary.
Classics.
Yeah, classics. My daughter gave me code names.
Nice.
Which was fun and cute, and that's something we can play with people of our generation because it's pretty quick.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. Those are great games. Absolutely great games. Carolyn, are you back? All right. If you want to, just jump in anytime and tell us about your game. How about Michelle?
Zombie Kids, I suppose.
Zombie Kids?
Yeah, Zombie Kids. It's a cooperative, and so it's the first and only so far cooperative game I've ever played.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so Lex over here. So Lex is 8.
Uh-huh.
And he's also rooting for Sorry, the oldie but goodie.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, we were having some issues with unhappiness, let's say, when losing.
Yes,
Said,
yes.
let me give one of these cooperative games a try. so that we can work together, win together or lose together. And
Right.
it was very successful.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we'll be talking, Matt and I will be talking about that in the course that we teach. Definitely. So hopefully people have an idea of maybe a game that they want to share with the group. I have one in particular that I wanted to open with. If you haven't heard of it, or if you have heard of it, you can give your thoughts on it. And that is, let me see if this is working. I have a camera set up to switch over to. That is Everdell. Who has heard of Everdell? Anybody out there?
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't played it yet.
It is one of
Oh
my
my gosh.
favorites.
This is my wife's all-time favorite game. Now, I gave it to her a couple of years ago for her birthday. And it is it's all about cutesy cuddly animals in the forest, and you're building a town. I mean, each of you are building a town, but it comes with a gazillion and a half pieces. It's a worker placement game. So you start with a whole bunch of like I said, pieces. You start with a bunch of places in town that you can place your workers, and your workers are just the cutest things. I should have had this more accessible from the start. Where are all of our workers? Oh no, we have so many expansions that we had to put all of our workers in a different box. Sorry. But the workers
Gordon, what do you mean by a work replacement game?
A worker placement game. So
A
worker
worker
placement,
placement, not work replacement.
no, yeah, worker placement is a genre of game where you start with a certain number of little people that represent your workers, often called meeples. I'm not exactly sure where that term started from, but it's been around for a long time. And you place your little people at different places in the game where they're allowed to go, and that triggers a certain effect to happen. And so in this particular game, your meeples are woodland creatures. And so you might play the squirrels, or you might play, oh, there's so many of them. I can't, my mind is blanking on how many there are. There's at least a dozen different creatures that we've got that you can be. And as they go around the forest, they can land on different things that activate different abilities, and you're trying to build up a town. But it's a deep game, a really deep game. We haven't even delved into everything that's there, but it's gotten a lot of really good reviews because of how much you can do with it. It's not cooperative. You play your own, each person's doing their own thing. But there's a whole lot there to discover in that game. Anybody else want to speak to that game if they've played it before? Lewis, I heard that you know what it is.
Yes, it's so pretty.
Yes, the artwork is amazing.
I can easily get my wife to play games if they're very pretty. And showing her that she got to be like tiny bunny meeples really
bunnies. Yes.
I keep debating. Do you have any expansions?
Is there an expansion that we don't have? No.
Okay, so which one
Yes.
which one is your favorite? Because I've been debating. Like, I like the game enough that I want to get an expansion, but I can't decide what would add the most to it.
I would say, well, anyone else out there that knows of the expansions can chime in as well. But I think probably Spirecrest is pretty cool. That one added a lot of things. That added the big meeples that your little meeples can ride on. That was pretty cool. But also the pearl one is very cool too, because that adds a new resource in pearls, and that's pretty exciting. So those two are our favorites.
One of the things about Everdell that I think is unique is, in most worker placement games, it's sort of like there's a whole round and everybody goes, and then everybody goes again, and then everybody goes again, and then eventually like that round kind of ends. But Everdell, you may have said this already, I had to duck away for a second, but Everdell, you move at your own pace through the whole game.
Yeah. So
I've played games of Everdell where everybody else is finished and it's just me doing like 6 turns of stuff.
That's because it goes by seasons. So everybody starts off in the is it in the fall? I forget. I think you might start off in fall.
I think so.
And so it goes from fall to winter to spring to summer. And you go through the seasons at your own pace. And so you might be in different seasons at different times, even though you're taking turns. your turn just might your season might last longer if you find out different things to do during your turn that they didn't do. Just depends what cards you get. It's a really cool game. Very, very cool game. And if anybody knows of the other game that's very, very popular, Wingspan, there's one big difference between Wingspan and Everdell that I kind of like. And that is, if you've played Wingspan, you know that as each round goes by, you get to do fewer and fewer things because you lose the pieces that you start to lose pieces as you put them on the scoreboard that let you do stuff. In Everdell, it's the opposite. You start off with a few of your workers, and as each season goes by, you get more workers, and so you get to do more and more things. So that last season is just like, oh my gosh, what do I want to do? I want to do so many things, and I've got a lot of workers so that I can do a lot of things. It's very
Did you
cool.
tell everybody about the main like feature of the board too?
Oh, the tree?
Yeah, it's got
No, I didn't.
this gorgeous tree that's the centerpiece of the whole board. And that's where when you finish a season, you go to the tree and you get to take an extra meeple depending on which season you're switching into. So it's so pretty.
My wife always builds the tree, so I would put the tree together, but I don't know how to build the tree. That's the other thing about games these days. They have like really nicely put together components. And for the people that really want to bling out their games, like there's an actual wooden tree that you can get for your Everdell. It's made out of wood. And you can get like, but even without that like expensive stuff, like the pebbles that you use for stones are really nice. They look like pebbles, and the berries are like shaped like berries and look like berries. It's really cool. All right, I want to let somebody else go. Matt, what game would you recommend?
I don't know what I wasn't.
You weren't ready?
I wasn't ready.
Oh, sorry.
But
if someone else is ready with a recommendation,
how about I can do something.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go with, I don't know if, I know you and I have played this. I'm going to talk about Valley of the Kings.
Oh, great game.
It's how do you describe it? You're collecting sets of cards, right?
Yeah, in ancient Egypt.
In ancient Egypt.
Don't be surprised that Matt picked a historical type game.
You basically have cards you can use to purchase cards that are set in the shape of a pyramid, and you have to buy them from the bottom row. And then the pyramid collapses down and you put new cards in as to keep the pyramid going.
Yeah, it's a really cool mechanic that they built into this game. The cards are set up in a pyramid. You can only buy from the bottom row, and then the pyramid crumbles, so you can see which cards are coming, but they don't become available until somebody buys them from the bottom. It's very cool.
Right. And the ultimate goal is to put the things that you're buying in sets in your tomb. So you can go into the afterlife well prepared. So, and honestly, why I like it is because I can actually get members of my family to play it with me. My daughter, Allie, likes to play this game. She gets annoyed when I win too many times, but then that actually spurs her to play some more. So
what was that called again?
It's called Valley of the Kings, and there are 3 versions of it, I think, at the moment.
Expansions, yeah.
The expansions are actually they include the
everybody's holding up their games. Thank you.
Yeah.
The expansions you can play separately. If you just get one of them, they have everything you need to play the game. So,
True.
Yeah.
The thing that it's simple in that it's a card game of just making sets and then trying to store them, but each of the cards has an effect. And so the strategy comes in, how long do I want to keep this card in my deck? It's a deck building game. And when do I want to store it in my tomb? Because once I store it in my tomb, I can't use it for its effect anymore.
So it has nice artwork on it and
great artwork. Yeah.
And some of the cards you end up doing things that are essentially you're disrupting your opponent, and other times you're just helping yourself.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great game if people haven't heard of it. And it's a pretty inexpensive game too, because it just comes in a small box of cards.
Yeah, which makes it also transportable when you're traveling and you can take it.
All right, who wants to go next? A game to share? Who will be the brave soul?
Sure, I'll talk about one.
Okay.
It's across the room, if this is a very popular game, if you haven't heard of it, you should. It's called Cosmic Encounter.
Oh my gosh, classic. This game's been around.
It's been
longer
around
than
since like
most
the
of you have been
70s or
alive.
something, but they've remade it a couple times. It's not the game I played the most because I actually just got it. I heard so much about it. But it's let's say a competitive war negotiation game where essentially every turn you're randomly picking a person to attack and then trying to convince the other people in the game to side with you as opposed to them. So you're constantly building allies and breaking alliances. And then on top of that, just the base game comes with 50 different aliens that have their own unique power that just completely break the game. So, Everdell and Wingspan, there are these like really finely tuned, balanced games. Cosmic Encounter is not like that. It's very silly. It's wildly imbalanced, and that's what makes the negotiations so important because it like sort of self balances because you've got someone whose power is just so much better than everyone else's, and then there's like ganging up on them. It can be very mean. There's always a lot of yelling, and it's very different than a lot of the games that I've played. And I just could not recommend it enough for the right group of people.
Yeah,
it's kind of an anti-cooperative game.
It can ruin friendships, I'm sure.
What's the player count that you've been playing at?
I played it at 4. The base game comes with 5. I've heard from people you should get as many expansions as you can and play with as many people as you can because it just becomes this, raucous event. So I've literally only played it once, and like I said, one person's really mad at the end of it, and they're like, he's like, I don't want to play this again. So that's how you know it was a good night that everyone remembers.
That's funny.
Trying to play it again.
Yeah, most of my recommends will come from the fact that my wife and I just play games together, so it's 2-player only. Matt plays in a gaming group on Wednesday nights, I know, so he's from group experience, and then so we've got running the gamut. Anybody else want to chime in with one?
Sure, I'll go. I've been working from home for like 2 years, just stuck in the apartment with my wife, so I've got a lot of 2-player games. So I just wanted to really quick just mention Patchwork. It's a 2-player only game where you have a square board and then you go around picking up basically Tetris pieces and slapping them together into like a quilt. And at the end of the game, you want to have the least like holes in your quilt. So you want to have covered the most of your board, but you can't go over the board and you can't overlap. You have to like make them Tetris piece fit. That's been a lot of fun. It's like kind of weird, like it's making a quilt and like Tetris, but board gamified, but it's a lot of fun. And it's like a real kind of quick 2-player. I've been enjoying that a lot, but I wanted to mention for 2-player a game that I recently discovered that I like is Watergate. It's another 2-player only game. One of you plays as the Nixon administration, and one of you plays as the reporters trying to uncover his scandal. And basically,
that's awesome.
The two players are basically battling. It's like a tug of war over evidence. The reporters are trying to uncover it, and Nixon's trying to cover it up. And you're like talking to informants or trying to hush them up depending on who you're playing as, and the entire game is based on the actual scandal and has like historical information on all the cards. And then in the rule book, the back of the rule book, it's like the whole story is laid out for you if you don't know anything about the real historical stuff. So it's really interesting, but you don't like need to know it to play the game. But it's just I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. The first one, Patchwork, just reminds me a little bit of Blockus when we were playing Blockus, but that just seemed very, very, I don't know, it seemed very sterile. Patchwork really brought like a warmth to the idea of the quadrominos sort of thing.
Yeah, they're not all Tetris, like they're not all 4. They're not all 4 squares. They're like
Yeah.
different sizes, and you have to
Yep.
pay in buttons to
Right.
get different ones on the
Very
board.
cute. Yep.
There's a couple like they're the same piece shapes and whatnot, but like there'll be different patterns on the fabric.
Yeah.
We just bought the Halloween version.
Oh,
So
cool.
all the fabric has like pumpkins and cats and ghosts and stuff on it. So
Nice.
that's been fun. And instead of buttons, it's now eyeballs.
Did not know they had a special Halloween version.
That's cool. There's a message from Gwen in the chat about suggestions for more cooperative games, especially for a player count of 6 or more. And so one of the things that I thought of immediately was like probably one of the first co-op games that I ever heard of, which is Forbidden Island. Folks out there that know the Forbidden series, Forbidden Island is such an easy teach and an easy game to play. Who's played Forbidden Island before?
I have. I like Forbidden Island the best, but I think Forbidden Desert has the best theme because Forbidden Desert, you have to collect the pieces of your ship to escape the desert,
right?
Which makes way more sense than Forbidden Island, where it's like the island is sinking and we have to grab treasure before we leave. Where it's like, okay, like, but if my life's in danger, I'm just gonna leave. It's like it makes a little bit less sense. I think you can win Forbidden Island a lot. It's more forgiving. You can win that one more easily. Forbidden Desert, we lose quite a bit. Depending on what level we set it at.
I have yet to really win Sky.
Oh, have you played?
Have not tried that one yet.
Yeah, Sky is fun because you could use it in Clash Royale, and it's got a little
rocket and circuits
that you got to build and everything. But I also wanted to show off when I went to Israel about 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, I want to get some board games, and I wound up getting a
Forbidden Island.
A bilingual copy of Forbidden Island.
Nice.
That's awesome. I love that.
That's cool.
So yeah, it has both languages. I also have Hebrew Catan and Hebrew Knights and Cities. That's
cool.
To show off my copy.
Gwen, you had a question?
I do. I apologize for my frame of reference to a grandmother. 6+ means age 6 and older.
Not 6 players. That it still works because I think Forbidden Island works really well for yeah, definitely. There's like all you're doing is there's cards with 4 different kinds of pictures on them, and so you're just trying to find matching cards. I think it would work.
So I would also recommend, depending on the kids, this is 5-Minute Marvel. They also have 5-Minute Dungeon, but it's very, very simple. There are bad guy cards, like this one's a boss, so it's pretty imposing, but Thanos, and you can see there's green, red, pink, yellow, and blue. And then everybody plays one specific hero, and there are cards that you have in like a shared deck, and all of those cards have those pictures on them. So
those
this
symbols.
one's just a yellow.
Yep.
This one's a green and pink. And so in order to fight whatever's in front of you, you've got to put down all the right pictures to add up to whatever's on the thing you're fighting. And then it goes away. And so you fight like a bunch of small guys like evil Ant-Man, or they're really funny too. Thanos' even creepier sidekick. But you then fight your way up to the boss. But it's good depending on the kids. If they like Marvel, it's really good. If they don't, they make one that's just kind of fantasy themed, that's 5-Minute Dungeon, but it's the same idea of just put the pictures that match what's up there.
Nice. That's a good recommend.
I have a suggestion that's not a game suggestion, just a sort of strategy with young kids when you're playing games. And I learned this from a behavioral therapist that specialized with working with kids with behavior problems. And so she would, in like impulse control, because you can lose co-op games also. So some things that she would start gaming sessions with would say, raise your hand if you're going to have fun if you win the game. And everyone raises their hand. She says, now everyone raise your hand if you're going to have fun, even if you lose the game. And some people might not raise their hand, and it starts that conversation at the beginning of the game. So you can say, see, this will still be fun, and you can talk about what that means and why you're there playing. And it's just a really good framework for starting a game with little ones, because that can be such an issue. And deciding how hard you want to play against someone for non-co-op games.
Right.
So that's just a little strategy that you can use.
That's cool.
All right, this is my last one for the children
My
games.
first Castle Panic.
Yep. So my son is only 20 months old, but I have a pathological addiction to purchasing board games. So I've been buying games that I can introduce him with. And this one was on like mega sale when I got it. But it's Castle Panic is a card game where you're basically in a castle and it's being assaulted from all sides by ogres and whatever little mythical creatures are coming after you. So they made a my first version, and the box actually does, here it is. The box actually does it for 4+ in terms of age. So they also have a My Little Scythe, but I think that one might be 6+. But it's basically, my first Castle Panic is kind of very Candylandy. So it's, you draw a card that has colors, but instead of Candyland where you're competing and everything, if there's an orc on the blue square and you have the blue square card, you play the blue square card and the orc goes away and you
Nice.
your castle safe. So those are some of the kids games I've got.
Cool. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Any other game recommends out there?
I have one.
Yeah.
This is not for the youngsters. Wait, hang on. Let me turn off my my background.
Wow.
I know
Yeah,
mine
that
too
was
much.
scary.
Yeah, it is scary.
We
Oops,
saw a
hang on.
skeleton just briefly.
Yes.
Beetlejuice in there.
I'm trying to turn off my background. Hold on a second. Pay no mind to my messy office.
Whoa, what? Mixtape Massacre. I feel like I may have
It's
heard of this.
really cool. And this is how you mark your lives because you're a serial killer. And then you have these guys to be this is who your characters are. And the best thing is that it comes with a bunch of very much smart aleck cards. And it also comes with a recommended playlist on Spotify. They're all 80s horror movie references.
Oh my gosh.
So if that is your jam, I highly recommend Mixtape Massacre. And if I may comment on a game that I am looking forward to, I was a huge fan of Dark Tower back in the 80s, and Restoration Games has created a new version, and I am anxiously awaiting mine. It should have come a while ago, but due to the pandemic. So I'm really, really excited. So if anyone's a Dark Tower fan, I am happy to share a recommendation or even lend my game because this thing's expensive. So
yeah,
I think that's going to be cool.
Cool.
Is an electrical engineer, and he got a dirt cheap copy of the original because the whole thing was busted. And somehow he found the schematics like online, so he just took it apart and fixed the tower.
I still have my original game, but it takes D-cell batteries. So
hey, you can sell that for a pretty penny. I think it's worth hundreds.
Oh no, I'm keeping it. I also have very old copies of a game called Witch.
Oh, nice.
My husband has found a couple of extras on eBay for when we need new parts. I mean, I used to play that when I was like 4 or 5 years old. So yeah.
Nice. All right, more recommends? I've got a few more.
So
I've got a couple.
My favorite, which has been also around forever and has tons of expansions, is Talisman.
Oh, Talisman. I feel like did someone recommend that last time? I don't remember. Can you describe it?
It's basically a D&D board game. You kill things, you get treasure.
And
you try to get to it's three rings, and you have to try and make your way to the center.
I'll have to look it up. I don't remember what that looks like. And there's tons of expansions for it too.
Oh yeah, and I have them all.
There's an app version if you want to try it before you get the physical copy too. I play the app a bunch. It's fun.
Oh yeah.
I play it on Steam as well, and I think I'm up to level 73 or something. And
wow,
yes, you need I don't know 50 games to get a level at this point.
Wow, cool. Anyone else?
I have some adult games. I sort of got sidetracked with the kids ones that I was talking about before, but
Yeah.
all right. Do you want to see something new or old?
New, especially if it's like a new hot game that people may not have seen or tried yet. Oh yes, that's
It's
one of our new
Arnak.
ones too.
I just got Arnak. So I've been playing it on Board Game Arena, which is basically a very awesome website. They also have an app where you can play a boatload of board games that are really good, and you can play against other people, and it's totally free. If you pay, you can start your own games, but if you don't pay, you can join in on games. So I've been playing it for a while, and it's basically you're researching a lost civilization on a lost island, and you've discovered the island, and the civilization has some very advanced technology. Maybe some monsters are there. It depends on how, what you randomly draw, if you find really scary monsters or just like giant spider, which is also really scary to my wife, but I digress. So I played on Board Game Arena, and I figured there are little things that you collect. So as you research and journey through the jungle, you collect arrowheads or gems or tablets. That on the Board Game Arena, they look like little things of paper. So I called them paper and arrowheads and everything. And then I got the physical game, and the component quality just blew me out of the water, because the tablets are like little stone tablets.
That's great.
Cool.
And then
Very
the
cool.
arrowheads, I thought were just going to be like cardboard tokens with arrowhead pictures, but they
look
are
chiseled.
little chiseled like blue arrowheads that you collect. And it's a cool game. It plays out over some rounds, and you only get 2 major actions per round. So once you know what you're doing, it can go pretty quickly, which is nice. And it's got a pretty good autonoma, because most board games that you do as single player, they'll give you an autonoma, which is like really complicated. Here's a deck of cards that you do this thing or that thing, or maybe this other thing to play a fake player. And Arnak's autonoma is just like, okay, the player takes this space, so now you can't. But there's also, they realized that people were enjoying it with the autonoma, so they created like a campaign that you can play online, and it saves your space and everything. But it's a whole story about discovering Arnak and the Lost Expedition and everything. But it's really, the artwork's great, the game is pretty quality, and I just got the physical copy, so I haven't even opened the cards yet, but I'll show you the bottommost card because my wife enjoyed it too. Just a sea turtle.
Why am I not surprised that Lewis got a game that let him play as if he was Indiana Jones?
I'm just saying. I mean, it's
now that the board comes with 2 sides, and so you start on one side and you play that out until you feel like you've got that down. Then you flip the board over. It's a more challenging side. It just gives you replayability. And then, of course, like we all do, you buy the expansion, and now you actually have characters that have different abilities. So you go in as an archaeologist that has a unique ability different than the other archaeologists. It's a very cool game. We've only had it for like maybe 3 weeks and love it already. It's got lots of replayability. Very cool.
It's very, very popular. And like I said, I played it a lot on Board Game Arena before I pulled the trigger on buying a physical copy, because I was like, all right, I want this now.
Yeah, I would say that board games these days come in 2 varieties. There's entry-level games that you might find at Target or wherever, and they might be a $30 game, maybe $40. And then there's these immense things like Everdell and whatnot that you got to be willing to plop down like $80 or
more.
Gloomhaven, which is like $150.
I
but
will
it
say
comes
that
with
buy my games on sale.
Yeah, I usually do
so
that
much
too.
Game. Like some of these games come with so much game. We've been playing Gloomhaven for like 3 years, and we haven't scratched the top of it. We're going to be playing that thing for the next 15 years, and it's going to be all new all the time. They're really, really massive games, and so I mean, it's worth the investment if you really, really like it. The other side of that is, has anybody experienced Tiny Epic Games? So Tiny Epic Games is an entire series of well, I don't know if you can see how small this really is. This is a small little game. And there's a series of them. This one's Tiny Epic Galaxies, which is one of our favorites. But we also have Tiny Epic, we have Tiny Epic Kingdoms, we have Tiny Epic Zombies, we have Tiny Epic Dinosaurs, which is really fun because you get to sort of capture dinosaurs and put them on your little habitat and make sure that you don't put the metasauruses with the vegasauruses, and you have to feed the dinosaurs, but you don't want them to all
eat each other.
Right. So this one in particular is very cute. I'm gonna bring up the components just because it's got a very cool design. You basically put out planets. If I get closer to that.
Yeah, you explained that.
You put out planets, and then you send your rocket ships to those planets to either orbit the planets or land on the planets. And what you're trying to do is colonize them. And so if you get the expansion, you get special rocket ships. But it originally comes with just these tiny little rockets. And so you're blasting off your rockets, and you're either landing on the planet, which looks like putting your rocket standing face up, or you're orbiting the planet by putting it like that. And if you advance your rocket far enough along this track, you get to colonize the planet. You advance your rockets by rolling specialized dice, which are very cool and have different effects. But the whole thing about the Tiny Epic series is that everything you need comes in this tiny little box. And some people have complained that, like, did you really need to make it so small? Could you have just made it a little bit bigger? These pieces are really, really small. But it's really cute, and it's really cool for like taking places. It has a 4-player count, even in this tiny little box, so you can play with 4 people. I don't know if they ever expand them beyond 4 people, but very, very cool. The whole Tiny Epic series I've found has been really, really fun.
Is that series the same concept, just with different themes, or
No,
are all the games different?
All the games are completely different.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, they're like you have to, and as Matt and I have discussed, and I guess everybody knows these days, just watch a YouTube video on them and see how the gameplay is, and then decide on which one, like, oh, that one doesn't really fit our taste, but that one is like, so like, that's how I fell in love with Tiny Epic Zombies, which is, you're in the mall, you as the characters are in the center courtyard of the mall. Zombies are coming in from all sides. You're trying to fight your way out of the mall. It's like, it's hilarious. And there's little zombie meeples that you're moving in all directions. It's a blast.
If nobody has mentioned yet Betrayal at House on the Hill, I'd really like to recommend that. That is a completely awesome game.
Great co-op.
I'm a big haunted house fan. So we're kind of a screwy family. So we like zombie stuff, obviously serial killer stuff, haunted house stuff. So yeah, that's one of those bigger games that'll cost you some money and it takes a bit to learn, but that's very, very cool.
But has so much replayability built in.
Yes.
Because you play the game, your characters go into this haunted house, which you construct by playing tiles, one room at a time.
And every house will be different.
Every house will be different. The layout will be completely different. And then at some point during the game, someone triggers a haunt.
Right.
And that haunt is just one possible haunt amongst 40 or 50 in the book. And so every time you play the game, that takes, a couple of hours to play, it's going to end or unfold differently. So yeah, a lot of replayability in that game.
And if you're not a fan necessarily of the spooky, there's a Scooby-Doo version.
Okay, that I didn't find out. My daughter would love that.
If you're more fantasy inclined, there's a Baldur's Gate version as well.
Yep.
Ah, okay.
And if you haven't heard of it yet, Gretchen, there's a legacy version.
Yeah, we have that.
You get to play the same family in that house as you progress through an actual, even it's still random. It's still the same game with it could be anybody who's anything, and there's 50 different possibilities still every time you play, but you play a coherent story even with that being involved, which is I thought was super cool in terms of their task of writing something like that, because how
Yeah.
do you keep one story going, but also still have the randomness that makes it so good?
Yeah, that does sound cool. I've heard of it and I'd love to get it, but we all buy each other at least 1 or 2 board games per holiday season. And now we've got more games than we have room or time to play. And we want to play all of them, but I think we're just averse to learning new ones because there's a big time investment. We say, okay, we're going to play a game tonight, but we want to actually play and not spend 2 hours learning it. So,
Right. Well, the nice thing about that one is it keeps a lot of the legacy games, with the exception of like 1 or 2, keeps the same core game. So you're still playing Betrayal, but they add 1 or 2 small tweaks as you play each game that make it a little bit different, but it's got a curve to it. So you're not suddenly playing a completely different game. Like if you've only played the regular, you sit down to play the first round of the game and you know exactly what to do.
cool. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I love how your character, like you name your character, you give the character a certain age, and then the next time you play that game, they'll say, okay, 30 years have gone by. If your character survived the last adventure, give them, make them 30 years older. They're now, they're the same person, but they're older now. They may or may not survive this adventure. And so
that sounds cool. We might have to put that on the list.
Yeah, legacy, but we still have the original too, and we'll go for the original sometimes. It's a completely different set of tiles. The house unfolds differently, so yeah, it's worth it.
And it's compatible, I think, with the original. Jordan, have you finished the legacy? Or
no, we have not finished the legacy.
Yeah,
we're deep into it, but we haven't finished.
I think when you finish, the best part is when you finish, I think it's replayable as just a regular version of Betrayal.
Oh, that makes sense.
So some of the legacy games aren't. So like Pandemic Legacy, when you finish the 12th round and you're done 12 months of the story, you've torn up cards. There are cities that are inhospitable, but Betrayal is a playable game after you finish the campaign, I think. I know Machikoro is playable afterwards.
I haven't heard too many people talking about Pandemic. I wonder if we've soured.
I wonder why. We're living it.
Yes.
Well, there's one big problem with having nights like this. I haven't attended one before, and I'm really glad that I did. I've been adding, what I like to do is keep track of games or things when people mention them throughout the year. I just put them in my Amazon cart. I don't always buy them from Amazon.
Yeah.
I've got $200 worth of games in my cart now, and it's all your fault.
That's me on a typical Tuesday though, so.
If you still want to play the Pandemic style game, but don't want the real world like pandemic theme right now because of the real world, the Cthulhu edition has you stopping the spread of Cthulhu's cult.
Nice.
And like instead of infection spreading, it's like different monsters from Lovecraft are like rising
cool.
on Earth, and
that's
so
awesome.
But it's the same gameplay with the like matching cards to stop like the spread of the cult.
I'm waiting, Marissa. I'm waiting on Mansions of Madness to come in the mail.
So they have miniatures in the.
Yeah,
I like it better than regular Pandemic.
I do too, actually. Yeah. Also, speaking of tiny epic games, even tinier than Tiny Epic Games, Button Shy Games is a company that makes games that are all wallet sized.
Oh, wow.
They're card games that only have like 10. Like 10 to
so
20
this
cards.
is micro games.
This is a really small game. This one's called Skulls of Sedlec, and the game is that you are working in one of those like ossuaries and trying to put skeletons, like trying to bury them properly. And so every card has 2 skulls on it, and you have to kind of stack them next to each other and then like pyramid them. Depending on who the skulls are, so like there will be a skull with a heart on it that's a lover. They want to be buried next to a lover, so you want to match their skull with another skull with a heart. These skulls of criminals want to atone in the afterlife, so they get you score points for them if you bury them next to a priest. Peasants are just happy to be buried, so they'll get 1 point no matter where you put them. Royals score points based on however many peasants, but also how many other royals are below them. And so the whole game is a very simple, just like there are piles of these skulls, you pick them up and then you put them on your pile. And so it's 2 or 3 players. I've only ever played it 2. And with 18 cards, each player makes a 9-card pyramid of 4, 3, and then 2. And then you score up the way you were able to match up your skulls.
Yeah, Matt and I were talking
super
about
small.
It sounds like it falls into the category of micro game. We're trying to collect all of this stuff for our X term about like different kinds of
different
games,
genres.
all the different genres, all the different mechanics, and make sure that we cover all of it in this 2-week course. And then one of the outcomes, I'm sorry that Gretchen had to sign off or got booted because she might have wanted to hear about this. One of the outcomes of our X term is hopefully we're going to, the kids that participate are going to spearhead and launch AFS family game nights starting next year. So we'll have like once a month or whenever whenever it happens, once a month, families are invited up to the library where we have tables where people are teaching board games or just like get together. We'll put a sign up out like a Google form or something. How many people do we have that want to play Settlers? How many people do we want to have that want to learn a new game or whatever, and have games going on in the library? And then the Wolf Center, which is off to the side, we'll have kids, AFS kids, just monitoring little kids that need to be, watched or whatever. They'll be playing Candyland, they'll be playing whatever over there, so that the adults can have a night of just board gaming and their kids are watched by AFS kids right where they can see them, and just playing kids games. So we're gonna start. Hopefully, we're gonna launch that next year. Maybe we'll do it every, bi-monthly or something. I don't know, but that's one of the outcomes of the X term that we're gonna run this year.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. We are reaching 8 o'clock, and so I want to be respectful of everyone's time and just thank everybody for coming. This was a lot of fun. I look forward to going back and replaying the video to catch all the names of the games that people suggested, because there were some that I hadn't heard of. And please, when we do this again, please join us again. Watch for any announcements. Matt, did you want to sign off with anything?
I'm not sure. You pretty much covered it. I just have a question. Is anyone else like me a sucker for games with really cool miniatures in them? See, because that's what I end up doing I end up painting my miniature.
Yeah, I wish I had that skill. Matt is really talented.
I spend money on games that are, in the end, I don't necessarily like the game, but I love the miniatures.
We had a painting night that we used to do up here for miniature painting with the gaming group that I'm in, but I only went once and I saw how serious these guys were, and I was like, no way. He has the little, I bet you have the little setup with like the magnifying glasses you can pull around.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, there were like 3 people around the table with those, and I was like, oh man, I did not know what I was walking into.
Well, one of the things that we're going to do with the X term kids is take them down to, what is it called, Queen and Rook in Philly?
Yeah.
So it's a
hopefully we're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, we hope to be able to do that, so they get just to experience that. I haven't been to one of the game cafes before, so we're going to see what that's like. Experience one of those with the kids. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for coming out. Have a great night, and try to get some gaming in whenever you can. It was great to see everybody.
Thank you
Take
very
it easy.
much.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.